Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to Yoma, Daf Yod Aleph. I'm Rabbi Kovacs filling in. I don't have a list of sponsors, but I do have a bulletin from Shabbos, and it does tell us that there's a Talmud Torah sponsor of Yona Shushie Ehrenfeld in loving memory and Lezecher Nishmat, their grandfather, Yosef and Shmuel Aron, and a week of learning sponsor by Jack Bennett in memory of Sergeant Nikolai Rappaport of Givati, who was killed in Lebanon in Hezbollah ambush February 7th, 1998. Thank you for all our sponsors. If there are other sponsors, thank you as well, but I don't have a list. I just have the bulletin, so we are going on that. We have an amazing daf today. I'm glad you're all here. We're going to get very political, so it's going to wake you up a little bit, God willing. We're on the very last line of Yud Amud Beis, and we've just been discussing if the Lishkat Parhedron, that chamber that the Kohen Gadol stays in for 7 days, because his wife wanted him out of the house. So, okay, there were different reasons, but if that needs a mezuzah or not. So they say, "My Montana lahad Tana Rabbanan." Who is the teacher? Remember, there was a debate between Rabbi Yehuda, who said it really doesn't need a mezuzah. It's temporary. If it's temporary, it doesn't need a mezuzah. And the Rabbanan said, you know what, we'll give him a mezuzah de Rabbanan because we don't want it to look like he's in jail. So Montana lahad Tana Rabbanan. Who taught this Baraisa, Tafa Yod Aleph? Kol hasha'arim, all of the gates, shahayu sham, that were there. We assume this means on the temple. Rashi says these are the eastern gates into the Azara, the main courtyard of the temple. Lo hayalhem mezuzah. They didn't have a mezuzah at all. Chutz mishar Nikanor, except for the Nikanor gate. Shalifni mimenu lishkas parhedron, because inside the Nikanor gate was the Lishkat Parhedron, where the Kohen Gadol was staying for 7 days. So because we put a mezuzah where the Kohen Gadol was staying, we put a mezuzah also in Shar Nikanor going in. The Gra actually removes the word Nikanor. So he just has the gate that led to the room of the Parhedron where the Kohen Gadol stayed. That one needed a mezuzah, but the rest of the doorways, the archways into the temple didn't even have a mezuzah, which sounds a little strange. We're actually going to talk about that on Amud Beis. Lema Rabbanan, let's just say that's the Rabbanan, that they don't really need a mezuzah at all. Lo Velo Rabbi Yehuda, it's not Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. To Rabbi Yehuda, if it was Rabbi Yehuda who says you really don't need a mezuzah at all on this room where the Kohen Gadol stays for 7 days. The only reason to put a mezuzah is because we don't want it to look bad. We don't want it to look like he's in jail. We want, okay, let's make it look like it's his house for 7 days. But you really wouldn't need deraisa. To Rabbi Yehuda, if it's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, he gufa gezeira. To put a mezuzah on the door to the Parhedron chamber itself is a gezeira, v'anan, so we should come, v'nekum, and get up, v'nigzar gezeira gezeira. What, are we going to add a gezeira on a gezeira? Listen, you want to have a mezuzah on his bedroom, on Lishkat Parhedron, just for appearances, just to look appropriate. You want to put another mezuzah on the door that's going towards that door? It's a lot. Afilu Zem Rabbi Yehuda. So we could even say this teaching is like Rabbi Yehuda, that they had another mezuzah on Shar Nikanor, or the Shar that was leading to Lishkat Parhedron. Kula Chada Gezerah. It's all one Gezerah. This comes up in Shas quite a bit, that we don't make a Gezerah on top of a Gezerah. We don't add on extra layers of protection when the first Gezerah was just an extra layer of protection. But here it's just one Gezerah. Perhaps if you don't see the mezuzah on the way in, you're going to think, well, no one lives here. Even the Kohen Gadol doesn't really live here. We're going to ignore the mezuzah on the Lishkat Parhedron also. So sometimes there are reasons where it looks like it might be two different Gezerot, but it's all one decree that the Rabbanan made to make the original decree lasting and effective. Tanu Rabbanan Bisharecha. So now we're going to talk about mezuzah. We're going to mezuzah land today, Rabbi Say. So we've taught in the Baraisa Bisharecha. I think we have this word in Shema Yisrael. So we're going to, in about an hour, we're going to get there. So Bisharecha, in your gates. So what does this include? Echad Shari Batim. It's not only the gates of your homes. Echad Shari Chatzerot. It's the gates of your courtyards also. Echad Shari Medinot. The gates of countries. Echad Shari Ayarot, and also the gates of cities. Yesh behen choved mitzvah lamakam. Now you're going to say, Shari Medinot, what's that talking about? The gates of a country? So Rashi points out, and it's on the very top line, Yesh Medina mukefet harim. There are some countries that they have a lot of hills around, the yarim, and forests around, become a parsaot for a lot of their border. A lot of their border is natural barriers. It could be oceans, could be mountains that aren't so easy to cross. And Yosef Mimena Ela Derech Sharim. So what do? They build walls and gates to wall off their Medina. Could go in Eretz Hagar. Like Hagar might be Hungary, might be the Magyar lands that he's referring to. But you see that some countries, they had an interest in controlling who went into the country. So without condemning or condoning any public policies of any administration, you can see that even 2,000 years ago and 1,000 years ago, countries had an interest in controlling who went into the country. It's just a reality, a historical reality. We're not endorsing anything. It's just a historical reality that countries used to build walls and gates to keep people out. Just saying. So, so it is another interesting thing. Yesh behen chovat mitzvah lemakom. So all of these gates have a requirement of the mitzvah to the makom. It's very strange. Now we remember in Pesach, we're not even Pesach Sheni yet. We said Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu, that Hashem is the place, but it's a very strange lashon. And there's actually a Rambam who is on this theme, and we're going to pull up. It's not Torah B'Shal Pei, but it's Torah that's in my phone. So the Rambam in Hilchot Tefillin and Sefer Torah in the 6th parak and the 13th halacha. So it's 6:13. So it's the Rambam in 6:13 talking about Tefillin. And he says a beautiful thing. Chayav adam lizacher b'mezuzah. You have to be careful about mezuzah. B'pnei shehi chovat hakol tamid. It's a requirement on everyone, every Jew, all the time. V'kol zman she'yikanis v'yetze. Every time you come in and out of the room, v'yivka b'yichud Hashem. You're encountering the unity of Hashem. That's what the Shema is all about. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. You're seeing the name of Hashem. V'yizkor, and what's going to happen when you see the mezuzah? You're going to remember Ahavato, that He loves you. V'yeir Mishnato, and you're going to wake up from your sleep. He's not literally asleep. He's walking through the doorway, but He's going to wake him up from his sleep. Remember that he has a relationship with Ribono Shel Olam. V'shigyatav b'havli azman, and he's going to come out of the confusion and the silliness he's thinking about, and he's going to remember Hashem. V'yeda she'en davar ha'omid li'olam l'olam ha'olamim eli yediat hatzur ha'olam. So Rambam's getting philosophical. He says, when you see the mezuzah, you can remember that nothing is eternal, nothing is everlasting, except for Hashem and our development of our knowledge, our relationship of Hashem. Miyadu chozer l'dato, and a person's going to come back to his senses. Cholech b'darkei misharim, and he's going to go on an upright path. Amru chachamim rishonim, kol mi sheish lo tefillin barosho. If you have tefillin in your head of his roa and on your arm, it's tzitzit bebigdo, and you have tzitzit on your beged. Mezuzah bepitcho, you have mezuzah on your door. Muchsach shuliachata. It's a very good. We call it a segula in Eretz Yisrael. It's a segula that you're not going to sin. It's a very good thing. Zahara yeshlo maskirim rabim. He has a lot of reminders. Vehen hem malachim, and these are like angels shematzilin eto milachato, that are going to prevent him from sinning. So he says that the mezuzah, you don't just walk by a mezuzah. The Rambam says you don't walk by the mezuzah. It's a reminder of the makom, of Hashem Himself, the yichud Hashem, the eternality of Hashem. It's to get us back into reality. So every time we walk through the doorway and we see the mezuzah, and we're going to remember that it's the makom, that it's Hashem is eternal and omnipresent, and we're going to remember our relationship with Him. So that's this interesting lashon makom. It reminds us of that Rambam in Hilchos Tefillin Mezuzah 6:13. Mishum shenemar, good. So why? Shenemar uchtavtam al mezuzot betecha avisharecha. It's beautiful. So we have Chazara on Shema Yisrael and Vehavta. Good. It says you will write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Amarle Abai Rav Safra. So Abai asked Rav Safra, Hane avule de Mechuzah. So these arches of Mechuzah. So apparently the entranceway to Mechuzah, which was a city in Bavel, but Rashi points out this city was mostly Jews. It was a big Jewish center in Mechuzah, Jews and non-Jews, but mostly Jews. So these arches going into Mechuzah, my time below Avdulahu Rabbana Mezuzah. Why don't the rabbis put a mezuzah on these doorways, these arches into Mechuzah? Amarle Hanchu Chizik Le'akar Dechuvehu Davidi. These aren't primarily made as an entrance. They're made as a chizuk, as a strengthening to the akra de kuve, to this tower of kuve. They're made for the tower that's on top of the arch. You understand from an architectural standpoint that an arch is much stronger than a square doorway. It'll support a lot more weight. So apparently they made the entrance to Mechuzah arch to support the tower that's on top of it. Amar Le, so he said back, akra de kuve guva to buy mezuzah. So why doesn't the tower, that tower of kuve that's on top of the arches, need a mezuzah itself? It has a residence inside, l'shomer beit asurin, for the guard of the prison. Apparently, the prison warden lived in the tower. I'm not sure if the tower itself was the prison. It might have been like the famous Tower of London. It might have been a similar setup where it was a diras keva for the prison guard there, and maybe the prisoners came and went, but he was keva there, so it should need a mezuzah there. Dehatanya. So there's a brisa that supports if somebody lives in a structure, even though it's not supposed to be a residence, it needs a mezuzah. The brisa says Beit Knesset, a Beit Knesset sheyesh bo Beit Dira, that has a residence inside, l'chazan Knesset, to the chazan for the Knesset. This chazan is what we call a shamash. He's not necessarily the singer. He's the chazan from Lashon Chose. Chose means the seer. He sees what needs to be done, and he takes care of the Beit Knesset. So if the gabbai, the gabbai, the shamash. So if he lives there, then it needs a mezuzah. Chayevet be mezuzah. Elamar Abaye. So why doesn't this tower on top of the gate of Mechuzah need a mezuzah? Elamar Abaye mishum sakona. There's actually a danger. There'd be a danger for the Jews to get together and put a mezuzah on that door. And Rashi says the danger is the non-Jews, the Babylonians, the Persians were running it at this time. They would be suspicious that the Jews are doing witchcraft on the city. The Jews are doing some sort of shtick to the city. This actually comes up Lamaisa when we try to put up an Eruv in a new place. That some people say, well, we don't want an Eruv, it's some sort of Jewish occult thing. You know, it's a wire on both sides. So it's like, but people assume things. People see Jews doing strange things, and they assume that it's going to affect them. So it's a sakana. The non-Jews would get upset if we put mezuzot on the gates of Mechuzah, even though the majority of the population is Jewish, because the political authorities were not Jewish. In Tanya, there's a brisa that supports this distinction. Mezuzot yachid nivdeket pa'amim b'shavua. The mezuzah of a yachid, we need to inspect it, make sure it's kosher twice in a week. That's twice in 7 years. V'shel rabim, but one that belongs to the rabim, pa'amim b'yovel, twice in a yovel cycle, twice in 50 years. So you see, we're not matriach the tzibur. Rashi points out we don't make the tzibur go out of their way very much, because then people aren't going to want to volunteer for communal positions if we make them run around checking public mezuzot all the time. So we try to lighten the load. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Maiseh be'artavin, and on this topic, Rabbi Yehuda said there was an artavin. Rashi says either that was his name or that was his line of work. Echad shachaya bodek mezuzot b'shuk eliyon shel. He was checking his mezuzot, but in public. Not clear if they were only his own mezuzot or he was saying, people bring me your mezuzot and I'll check them for you. Maybe he was a sofer. Matzu kastor echad, and a Roman official came, but not elef zuz, and gave him a fine of 1,000 zuz. So you see that the Roman officials, the non-Jewish officials, were seeing this man checking mezuzot, which is a beautiful thing, but they thought it was some sort of hocus pocus and witchcraft, and they fined him 1,000 zuz. Rabbosai, was witchcraft illegal in Rome? Good. Shkoyach, I don't think so. It's a good answer. The Romans did all sorts of witchcraft. The Romans did all sorts of divination and weird things and sacrifices, and they did all sorts of crazy stuff. What happened here was he was practicing witchcraft without a license. That's why the Romans hit him with this giant fine. So we see that the extortion called licensing was alive and well back 2,000 years ago. Yeah. So, Rabbi Elazar, shluchei mitzvah eino nizokin. But listen, he's doing a mitzvah. He's checking his mezuzot. Maybe he's checking someone else's mezuzot, which makes him, he's doing a mitzvah. He's a shaliach. He's a messenger to do a mitzvah. He shouldn't get damaged. So the response is, Heicha dekavia hezeka shiny. When the danger is readily apparent, the danger is what we call kavua, it's fixed, but here it's, everyone knows about this danger, that the Romans are going to come after you for practicing witchcraft without a license. So that's different. That's, he should have known better. And this reminds us, Rabbi Sai, about a famous Gemara in Chulin. So those of you who were with us in the last trip through Shas, remember this Gemara. It's in Chulin Kuf Mem Beis. It's very famous. I don't have it memorized, so I'm going to get it out of my phone. And this Gemara is on the topic of Shulach HaKen, sending away the bird. It goes like this. Tanya Devei Rabbi Yaakov Omer. So Rabbi Yaakov said, Ein locha kol mitzvah shebetorah. There's no mitzvah in the Torah, shematan schara betzida, that writes a reward next to it, she'ein techiyat hametim tluya ba, that really, to get the full reward, you have to wait for techiyat hametim. Kibud avem ktiv. It writes by kibud avem, honoring your parents. L'man yirichun yamecha, l'man yitav lecha. It's good, very good. You get long life and you get goodness for honoring your parents. B'shuluach haken, for sending away the mother bird. What happens? Kativ laman yitav lecha harachta yimim. It will be good for you and it will lengthen your days. But haresha amar lo aviv ala lebira. There was an actual maisa. A son was told by his father, go up on this ladder, go up to the top of the building. Haveli gozlot, and bring me the chicks. We're gonna make breakfast or dinner or something. Allah, he went up the ladder. Shalachet em, he sent away the mother bird, the mitzvah shluach haken. V'lakech hatabanim, he took the chicks. B'chazrato, and he was coming down. Nafal umet, he fell down the ladder, and Chalil Olenu, he passed away. Heichan riches yamiv shalzeh, where is the long days of this one? Heichan tovato shalzeh, where is his goodness? It's promised in the Torah. Elalaman yirichun yamim be'olam shekulo aruch. So his arichus yamim is going to be in the olam ha'emes, in the next world, which is a totally long world. Aman yitav lecha le'olam shekulo tov, and in the world that's all good, he will have a reward, but not necessarily in this world. And this is an amazing thing. Dilma lohava, maybe this is not a good explanation. Rabbi Yaakov, Maisa Chosa. So Rabbi Yaakov saw this Maisa, Dilma harha be'aveira. Maybe this boy who fell down the ladder was thinking about an aveira. Chava, mechashva, ra, ena kadosh baruch hu mitzaver l'maisa. So he says, no, even if someone's thinking about something that's not appropriate, Hashem doesn't make that a Maisa. By Jews at least. If someone's thinking something, they're not going to be punished just for thinking. Okay, there's intricacies to that. Maybe he's thinking about a avodah zarah. D'chsiv leman tafos et Beit Yisrael bilavam v'amar Rav Yaakov zo mechshav avodah zarah. So that gets a worse punishment thinking about a avodah zarah. So they say, here's the line: Hachi kamar im ita deika schar mitzvah b'hai alma. If there's reward for mitzvot in this world, ta'evele v'tagin alei. So the mitzvah that he was doing, 2 mitzvot, should have guarded him. He wouldn't have come to think about avodah zarah, v'litzak, and get injured and died. Eleschar mitzvah b'hai al maleka. There's no reward for the mitzvahs in this world. That means the full reward of the mitzvot is not received in this world. Hamar Rabbi Elazar shluchei mitzvah ein nizokin. So they say, oh, but shluchei mitzvah ein nizokin. That's our line here. But chazaratam shiny. So maybe he was going down the ladder. Maybe going up the ladder, he's protected. Going down the ladder, no. So not only going, but even coming back, he should be protected by the mitzvah. So what was the answer? Sulam ruahava. The ladder was bad. The ladder was rotten. The rungs were loose and rotting and about to break. Like we saw yesterday, the doors that were wooden that could be eaten by a worm from the inside. This is what happened to the ladder. The ladder was the problem, not the boy's machshava, not the lack of a mitzvah. Makam d'kavu hezeka shiny, and where the hezek is kavua, where the hezek is recognizable that there's a danger here, that you can't rely on a mitzvah to protect you. You have to be practical. You have to be practical also. We believe in the power of mitzvah. We believe in the power of Mezuzah, but you have to also be practical and not send your kid up a ladder that's rotting from the inside and the rungs are shaky and might break. So that's that's Yiddishkeit. We're up in Shemayim. Our machshavot are up there with Hashem and spiritual growth, but we're also down to earth. We're also practical because we want to avoid practical dangers. Avoda. So it's lemaisa today. It's maisa today. You can't. You have to be involved in a mitzvah and you have to take proper precautions. But you have to be realistic at the same time. Being involved in a mitzvah, being involved in Talmud Torah protects, but you also have to be practical at the same time. So that's heicha dekaviyah chayzeka shiny. It's a very important point in Yiddishkeit. Dichsev, and they bring an example. Vayomer Shmuel, and Shmuel says to Hashem, Eich elech, how can I go to anoint a new king? Shama Shaul, and Shaul, the first king, is going to hear about it. Haragoni, and he's going to kill me. Vayomer Hashem. So what does Hashem tell Shmuel to do? Eglet bakar tikach, take a calf, biyadcha, martelis bach l'Hashem bati, and say, I've come to Hebron to do a sacrifice here. Hashem told me to do a sacrifice here. Of course, after the sacrifice, he's going to go find son of Yishai to anoint as the next king. But he has an alibi. He has something to protect him from Shaul, from the government. The Tane, Rav Kahana, Kamed Rav Yehuda. So Rav Kahana taught in front of Rav Yehuda. We're going to get deep into Hilchot Mezuzah. Beta Tevin, a storehouse for your straw. Beta Bakar, or the barn that can have animals. Beta Eitzim, and the storehouse for the firewood. Beta Otzrot, and the storage houses generally. Paturin min Mezuzah, they're pater from Mezuzah. Mipnei shenashim neotot behen, because the women make nice in them. My neotot, what does it mean? Neotot, make nice. Rachatzot, that's where they wash. So Rashi points out, neotot is lashon na'ah, like na'eh. Like when you go to a wedding, you don't have anything else to say, you say kala na v'chasoda. We see this in the Gemara in Kedushin. You say it's a nice kala, na, it's very nice, very nice. And so they apparently, because they wash there, that's the reason it's pater from Mezuzah. Rashi says because they go and they get undressed, and they're undressed there, so it wouldn't be kavod for the Mezuzah to be on the, understand, it's kind of like a shower. So that's why we wouldn't put a Mezuzah on. Amarle Rav Yehuda, time of the Rochatzot. So you're saying the reason these storage areas are pater from Mezuzah is because women wash there. Hastama, if it's just a regular old wood shed or a regular old barn, chayavin, it should be chayavin in Mezuzah. Vetanya, but there's a baraisa that doesn't sound like this svara. And that teaches refet bakar, a barn for cattle, pturim in a Mezuzah. it's pater from mezuzah. Elemai ne'otot. So what does the Braita mean when it says ne'otot, make nice? What does it really mean? Mitkashtot. It means they adorn themselves. It means they put on their jewelry, they do their hair, they do their makeup. Rashi adds they put on their perfume. So the women wouldn't necessarily want to do this in the household in front of everybody. They want to be more tsinua when they're doing their makeup and doing their hair. They don't want everyone to see. And often in those times, the house wasn't very large, and maybe there was one room and a few curtains, so maybe they wanted to go somewhere else to do their makeup. If you've been to Tzfat and you've seen the house of the Beit Yosef, it's like this. You've been to the tour of Tzfat, the house of Beit Yosef, it's like one room, and it's a decent-sized room, and there's a little loft, but it's one room. Lamaisa, they must have put up curtains for dividers, but it's all one, there's no walling off individual rooms. So you understand the women want some privacy to get made up, to be mitkashtot. Hachichtani. So this is what the Braita is teaching. Afal pi, even though shenashim mitkashtot, even though the Nashim do their makeup there, which is a use, they're using it. They're not sleeping there, they're not eating there, but they're doing something in there. Behem paturin. So even though the women are using it for some useful purpose, they're still patur because they're merely for storage. Amalei Rav Kahana. Are you going to tell me that women are doing their, they're getting adorned in there, they're doing their makeup and their perfume and their hair and their jewelry? That's going to be pater? Vatanya, there's a brisa not like this that teaches refet bakar, a barn for cattle, paturim in a mezuzah, vishenashi mitkashot ba chayevet. But if the women use it to adorn themselves there, that's chayev in a mezuzah, because that's actually a real full-fledged use. It's not as good as sleeping and eating there, like we do in the sukkah, but it's a use that should be mechayiv in mezuzah. But what can you say? Mitkashtot tanaihi, that if a space, not a normal residence, but a space, a room or a barn or a storage that's used by women to adorn themselves, tanaihi, it's a machlokes tanaim. Lididinami stama tanaihi. So I say that a stam refet, a stam barn or woodshed or something like this, also it's a machlokes tanaim if that needs a mezuzah. He detanya, like the Brisa teaches, beitecha miyuchad l'cha. So which house needs a mezuzah? Your house, the one that is miyuchad for you, that's especially for you, that's your own residence. Prat lebeita teven, that excludes a straw storage, the beita bakar and the barn, the beita eitzim and the woodshed, the beita otzrot and the storage rooms. Shepatorin min mezuzah, they're patur min mezuzah. V'yesh mechayivin, and some people say they're chayiv in mezuzah. We see it's a machlokes tanaim. Be'emet amru. Usually when we see these words be'emes amru, it means they agree, they paskin like this. Beita kisei, a bathroom with an outhouse. Ubeita borsiki, and the tannery, which had a lot of smells and chemicals in there. Ubeita merchatz, and the bathhouse. Ubeita tefila, and the room with the mikveh in it. Vish nashim neotot behen, and the room where the women make nice again. Again, that's that word that might mean washing, it might mean adorning. Paturin min mezuzah. These are all patur from a mezuzah. Rav Kahana mitarts the time. Rav Kahana interprets this brisa according to his logic. Rav Yehuda mitarts the time, and Rav Yehuda according to his. Rav Kahana mitarts the time. Rav Yehuda explains this according to his reasoning. Betecha miyuchad lecha. That's your own house needs a mezuzah. Prat lebeita teven, the beita bakar, the beita eitzim, the beita otzrot. Excludes all these storage houses, barns, woodsheds. Shebatorin min mezuzah, that they are patur mezuzah bistam, when it's just a regular woodshed, just a regular barn. And some say a stam barn is mechayiv in a mezuzah, and be'emet amru, and they said in truth, beita kisei, beita borsiki, beita merchatz, that the outhouse and the tannery and the washhouse, the bathhouse, ubeita tvila, and the house with the mikveh in it, vishen nashim neotot behen, and where the women make nice, umane otot rochtzot, and a room where the women wash in it, pturin min mezuzah. So all of these places have in common that the people are undressed there, or there's smells there, or there's excrement there. So those are all patur min mezuzah. Ihachi, if so, hainu merchatz. So listen, we said bathhouse, and then you said where the women are neotot, where they're rochatzot, where they're washing themselves. So you already told me the merchatz, the bathhouse. Why are you telling me where the women wash? It's the same thing. So the first one is the merchatz derabim. That's the public bathhouse. It used to be in Roman times, not everyone had indoor plumbing, had running water, had a way to heat water. So they would heat the water publicly. And you'll see this in Eretz Yisrael, that they have some of the bathhouses from Roman times, and they would have different pools. They'd have the hot pool and the cold pool and the steam room, and where they would schwitz and scrape off the schmutz and use oils and clean up. And it was the public went there and they paid some money and got their towel and their oil and cleaned up. Hashmina merchatz de yachid. So this room where they're naotot rochatzot is a merchatz de yachid. It's like a private room where they, just individuals, just one family is washing. The Saikadat Chamina, we would have thought to say merchatz de rabim, a public bathhouse, the nafish zume. It has a lot of zuhama. Usually means like an odor, like a steam, like a schmutz, we call it. There's a lot of people there. There's a lot going on, a lot of nudity, a lot of sweat. A private bath area, where it's just a few women, just a family using it. Maybe it's not so bad. We might say that's machayev mezuzah, kamash malan. So we learn out, no, even a private bathing area is pater min mezuzah. Rav Yehuda mitards the time here. Rav Yehuda will explain the same baraisa for his reasoning. Hachi katane, he says, this is what it's teaching. Beitecha miyuchad lecha. So what needs a mezuzah? Your house of residence. Prat lebeita tevin, excluding a straw storage, beita bakar, a barn, beita eitzim, a woodshed, beita otzrot, and a storehouse. Shepaturin min mezuzah, that are pater min mezuzah. Afilu mit kashtot, even if women use that to adorn themselves, to do their makeup and their perfume and their jewelry. Yesh mechayvin b'mit kashtot, and some say these places are chayav, even though it's a barn, even though it's a woodshed. It's not really a normal dira, but just because the women are adorning themselves, we're going to say it's chayav in a mezuzah. Well, stam divrei kol pater, but stam without this factor of women using it to adorn themselves, we would say it's pater. Now, this reminds us of an amazing Rashi on the Chumash. The word miskashtot, I don't think actually shows up in Chumash anywhere, but it's in a Rashi. And the Rashi is at the end of Vayakel, and he says, actually, this is good. We're going to pull out the Chumash Rashi. Wow. And this is very famous, and if it's not famous, we're about to make it famous. There's one of those long Rashis that sometimes we skip over because it's too long, but it's worth it. So this is Shemot 38, Pasuk 8, Vayasa tekior nechoshet. He made the golden, wash basin, that kano nechoshet, and its base of copper, b'marot hatzovot, from the mirrors of the gathered women, asher tzavu petach echel moed. Okay, some guys know what's coming already. This is good. So beautiful. So Rashi says from the Medrash, Benot Yisrael hayu biyadon marot. They had mirrors. Shrot bahem kashehen mit kashtot. They would use these mirrors to beautify themselves, to do their makeup, do their jewelry, their hair, to look beautiful. Af otan lo ikvu milchavi lenidvat mishkan, and they brought them to the Mishkan. They didn't hold back. Hayamois Moshe bahen mipnei she'asuni liyetzer hara. And Moshe spurned them, because this is for the Yetzer Hara. You use this for mitkashtot. You use this to adorn yourselves. That's not chashuv. That's not holy. Amr lo ekadosh baruch hu, kabel, accept them. Ki elu chavivin alai min hakol. These are the most beloved thing to me. Why? Shal yedeichen chemidu nashim tzivaot rabot b'mitzrayim. This is lashon tzivaot, nashim tzivaot. They were tzoveh, like they made seva as like an army also, but they made like legions in Mitzrayim, legions of children. The husbands were worn out from the back-breaking labor. The husbands were exhausted and enslaved and being worked, sometimes, God forbid, to death. So the women would go and bring them food and drink. And they would feed the husbands, to give them their strength back. Notlo tamarot, and take out the mirrors. This is beautiful, Rabbi Sai. Kol achat roa atzma imbala b'mare, and she would look at herself next to her husband in the mirror. Now you understand, she's already done her makeup and her hair, and she's already, dressed very well. Mishdatu b'dvarim lamar, and she would seduce him with words, saying, "Ani na mimcha, I am more beautiful than you." Because you understand, he was, involved in slavery, and she was all made up and gorgeous from being mitkashtot using the mirror. And that would return the desire to their husbands. They had no desire left, and this use of the mirror and the use of the makeup and the use of what the women were doing would bring back the desire. And they would get together, meet Abro to Yoldot Sham, and they would actually conceive and give birth right there out in the field. Shnemar, it says in Shir Shim, Tachat Tapuach Araticha. I have awakened you or aroused you under the apple tree out in the field. This is what the pasuk means. Marot tzovot, the mirrors of the women who gathered or congregated. They gathered together the children that they made in Mitzrayim. And the version in Sota, Yud Aleph, I believe it's Yud Aleph, it says that bizchut nashim tzidkaniyos, that in the merit of the righteous women, Nigolin, we were redeemed from Eretz, from the Shibud Mitzrayim, and then it launches into the story about the mirrors. So the mirrors saved Am Yisrael because they were used for mitzkashtot. So you see that this mitzkashtot, this women doing their makeup, doing their hair, putting on their jewelry to look good for their husbands, so they can have a normal family life, that is so chashuv, it saved Am Yisrael from Shibud Mitzrayim. And that is the machloket right here in the Gemara. If a barn or a woodshed, yeah, okay, it should be pater from mezuzah, it's not a dira, but listen, the women go in there and they do their hair and their makeup and their jewelry. Oh, so now it's chashuv. Now it needs a mezuzah. See, that's the machloket right here, is if mitkashtot, if the women just going in there to adorn themselves and look good, if that's good enough to be a dira, to need a mezuzah. And that's right here, that's the machloket. And that's what saved Klal Yisrael from Mitzrayim. It's an amazing thing. So the power of the Nashim Tzidkaniyos. So good. So good. Be'emet amru beta kisei beta borsiki. I think I went back a little bit. So let's rewind a second. Good. Rabbi Yehuda Matar Tzatame. I'm going back a couple lines because I was like in the middle of it. Matar Tzatame hachi katane betecha miyuchad lecha prat lebeta teven beta bakar beta eitzim beta otzrot. Shepatur min mezuzah. So all these storage rooms are pater from mezuzah. Afilu mit kashtot v'yesh machayvim mit kashtot. And some say they're chayiv because the women use them to adorn themselves. Aval stam divrei kol pater. But if women don't adorn themselves in them, they would be pater. They're merely storage. Be'emet amru, and in truth they said beta kisei, beta borsaki, the outhouse or the tannery. Beta merchatz and the bathhouse, beta tvila and the mikveh house. Afal pisha nashim mitzkashet behem paturin. So even though women would use that to adorn themselves, but because it has the lavatory or it has the tannery or it has the mikveh in there, people are not dressed in there. Those are pater from the mezuzah. Mishum denafish zume, because there's zume again. There's shmutz, there's shvitz, there's these factors that it's not respectful to have a mezuzah there. Rav Yehuda. And for Rav Yehuda, stama divrei hakol pater. He says, mistama, everyone would agree that these storage rooms, these barns, are pater. Vatanya bisharecha, but there's a brisa not like him. It says bisharecha in your gates, echad shari batim, echad shari chatzerot, whether it's your house or your yard, echad shari medinot, or your country, echad shari ayarot, or your city, v'refet, and a barn, v'lulin, that's a chicken coop or bird coop, matvan, that's a teven storage, straw storage, otzrot yain, in your storehouse for the wine, otzrot shemen, or for your oil, chayavin b'mezuzah. These storage places need a mezuzah. So you see they've added on the certain storerooms to the list of places need a mezuzah. Yachushnim rabbe af, turning over, you might have think you would add even beit shar, a gatehouse. It's just sort of a little building built at the entrance to a chatzar. The echsadra, it's sort of the, I think they call it a portico. It's like a hallway leading to other places, a mirpeset, or the porch. This is often used for the balcony. If you have a dira, you have an apartment, and you have sort of an exterior walkway leading to, some hotels are built like this. There's a walkway on the outside, second floor, leading to the hotel room. Some dirot, apartments are built like this also. It's a mirpeset. Talmud lomar, bait. My bait miyuchad ladira, yatsu elosh and miyuchad ladira. So certain of these things are not miyuchadin l'dira. These you don't really live there. There's a Tosfot points out, in Amud Aleph, he says that some of these places we do say they need a mezuzah. He had said in Menachot, Lamed Gimel, we said that these achsadra and mirpeset, they would need a mezuzah, and he says we're machalik there. If these places lead directly to a dira, directly to an apartment, it would need a mezuzah. But if they're just sort of leading somewhere else, and they're not leading directly to a house, they would not need a mezuzah. He says, or maybe what's derais the Rabbanon, but over there in Menachot Lamed Gimel, they seem to be different, but Tosfot makes a distinction. So these places that are not miyuchad l'dira, they do not need a mezuzah. Yachol shani merabe af beta kisa. You might include even an outhouse, a beta borsaki, or a tannery, a beta merchatz, or the bathhouse, a beta tvila, or the house with the room with the mikveh in it. Talmud lomar bait. So the pasuk tells us the bait, ma bait, just like a bait, asui lekavod. It's made for honor and respectability. Afkol asui lekavod. So to any room that's made for respectable use, yatsu elush and asui lekavod. So these rooms like a lavatory or a tannery or the bathhouse are not made for the kavod. You see from here that your house, our own houses, kavod homer, they should be made for kavod. When we put a mezuzah on our house, we should think about this is a kavod for the house. It's not that the mezuzah is just an ornament. It's a kavod for the house. And when you see the mezuzah on your way in,
You remember what the Rambam said in 613. The Rambam said it's going to wake you up. It's going to teach you to put Hashem first. Think about the eternality of Hashem and the passing nature of everything else, and it'll wake you up. And so it's a kavod to have the mezuzah on your house. So afkol asui lekavod yasu elush ein asui lekavod yachol shni merabe av harabayit. You might include even the harabayit, the shakot, and the rooms in the temple, the azarot, and the courtyards of the temple. Tamar marbayit. But the pasuk says it's a house. Ma bayit shu chol. Just like your house is mundane, it's non-sacred. Afkol shu chol. So this includes only things that are chol. Yatsu elu. This excludes the harabayit and the temple and the structures there. Shen kodesh. Tiyufta. So this is a tiyufta to Rabbi Yehuda, and we're going to paskin that storage rooms are chayev. So the garage or the attic, if it has the door, we're actually about to see the proper size of a door to be chayev in mezuzah. It needs a certain doorway. We're going to take a look at that. But storage rooms, assuming they're of the minimum size and the doorway is the minimum size, they are chayev in a mezuzah. So, and even if it's not such a great storage room, but the women do their makeup in there, also chayiv in a mezuzah. That's a chashav use like a dira, but we see from here we don't paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, and the storage is chayiv in a mezuzah. Good. Tanei Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda k'mei de Rava. So Shmuel taught in front of Rava shisha sharim p'turin min mezuzah. There's 6 kinds of doorways that are patur from needing a mezuzah. Beta teven, your straw storage. Beta bakar, your barn. Beta eitzim, your woodshed. Beta otzrot, your food storage. Sharam madi, and a median gate. We'll find out what that is. Shar she'ena makura, and a shar without a roof. It has no top post to it. Shar she'ena gavoa yud, and a doorway that's not yud tfachim high. It's not 10 tfachim tall. It's not a real door, and we know from Hilchos Sukkah it's not a real mechitza either. Amar le, p'tachta b'shisha, sakta b'shiva. So you told me you were going to tell me 6. You told me 7. No. Amar le, I can count. Yeah. Amar le, sharamadi t'naihi. That's because sharamadi is a machlokes t'naim. The Tanya, the Bryce explains, because the sharamadi is arched. And they're going to explain a kippah. Kippah is what we have on our heads, Rabbi Sai, but it also means a dome or an arch. Rabbi Meir mechayev b'mezuzah. He says an arched doorway is chayev b'mezuzah. Chachamim potrim. They say it's not. Shavin, and they agree, she'im yesh berogla asara, if the legs of the arch, that means the vertical sides, what's going on is it's vertical, and then it arches on the top. It's not slanted the entire way, but it's vertical for 10 tvachim, and then it's domed on top. Shechayvin mezuzah, they agree it's chayev mezuzah. Rabaye dechule alma gavoa asara, ve'ein berogla gimel, if the whole doorway is 10 tvachim high, and the legs, the straight portions near the bottom, don't have gimel tfachim, lav klum hi. It's not even a doorway, because we know that gimel, remember from Hilchos Shabbos, if it's within gimel tfachim of the ground, it's like it's on the ground already. There's a nafkaminas for rolling things versus throwing things for hotzah. We saw that in the first parak of Shabbos. Inami yesh beragla gimel, or if the legs, the straight parts, have 3 tfachim, ena givoa asara, or if the entire height of this doorway, this arch doorway, is not 10 tefachim, lav klum hi, it's not even a doorway. Lo nechlaku, so they didn't disagree. Ela bigavoa asora, it's really 10 tefachim tall. V'yesh beragla gimel, and the straight legs do have gimel. They do have 3 tefachim of straight height before it starts to arch over into a curve. V'ein barach badalad, but it doesn't have 4 tefachim of width for the whole 10, because what's going on is it has 3 tefachim of height, and the width is good enough. The width is daled, the width is 4 tefachim, but then it starts to slant inwards, so the rest of it is not daled wide. Yesh ba l'chok l'hashlima, but you could pretend to carve out. You're not literally carving out, but you're chok l'hashlim. We saw this also in the first parak of Shabbos. L'arba, if you removed the arch and left it squared off, you've taken out the curved part, and you're just leaving the square part, then it would be 4 tefachim wide. Rabbi Meir savar choking in the hashlim. We pretend that you carve out the arch to make it square. Rabbanan savar ein choking in the hashlim, and therefore they would say it's patur because it's not wide enough. It's not 10 tefachim tall and 4 tefachim wide because the arch gets in the way. And Rabbi Meir says the arch doesn't get in the way. We will pretend for halachic purposes that it's not there. Good. Tana Rabbanan, that was our geometry lesson for today. Tana Rabbanan, the Bryce says, Beta Knesset, Beta Isha, Beta Shutfin, Chayevet Mezuzah. A Beit Knesset, where we are, or a Beit Isha, a house owned solely by a woman, or Beit Shutfin, it's owned by partners. It is Chayev in Mezuzah. Pshita, shouldn't that be obvious? It's a mitzvah. Ma'u, the same we would have thought to say, the pasuk says, Beitecha. Beitecha is a masculine singular word. Your house, masculine singular. Lo beita, not her house. Beitacha v'lo betayhem, and it's your house, singular, not a plural, not your house of two men who joined up in a partnership. Kamash Milan, so we come out that those are all chayiv and mezuzah. Emahachanami, why don't we say, let's read the word literally and say it's masculine singular only. It's only a house owned by one man should be really chayiv deraisa. Amakra leman yerbuyu mechem v'mei v'nechem. The pasuk says, why? We're going to read in Shema. Why do we do the mezuzah? Leman yerbuyu mechem v'mei v'nechem, so that your life will be longer. Hane bayu chaye, only a man needs a life. Hane lo bayu chaye, but partners and women don't need a long life. We all need long life, Rabbi. We should all be gezont. I may have asked, right? That's pashut. Ele betecha lamali. So why does the Torah say betecha? Kider Rava is famous. The Amar Rava derech bi'atcha. He reads betecha as bi'atcha, the way you come in. So how do you come into the house? Ki akar inish kare, when you pick up your leg to go in. Yamina akar beresha, you pick up your right leg first. This is actually a famous slogan, right foot forward. Right foot forward is right here in the Gemara, Yoma Yud Aleph. And we know it's derech kavod to start with the right. The right is symbolic of chesed, of giving, of kindness, of mercy. And we remember from Zvachim, when the Kohanim would go up to the Mizbeach, they would always turn right. They'd always go to the right and turn to the right. It was derech kavod to start with the right. Even if you're left-handed, no hate for the lefties, but we start with the right. You put your right shoe on first, so you put your right foot forward, so you put your mezuzah on the right side going in. Obviously, that's the front door. Other doors, maybe it's not so pasha which side you should put it on, the left or the right, depends on the shimish. There's a lot of discussion about that in the post-game. What if you have an emergency exit? Emergency exit goes to the outside, but if you only go from inside to outside, not outside to inside, so maybe since it's for emergencies only, you don't even need a mezuzah, or maybe it needs a mezuzah, but on the right side, which would be the left from the outside, but the right side from the inside. So there's a lot of discussion in the postgame about putting your mezuzah on the right versus the left and how to decide that. Obviously, on the front door, it's easy to figure out because we're always going into the house. Again, it's built for kavod, going in, so it'd be on the right side. So on this topic, Tanya Idach, there's in the Brisa, Beit Knesset, Beit Shutfin, a shul or a house of partners, Beit Isha, Metami ben Negayim. So Baruch Hashem, we have Chazara from the Parshas Shvua about Negayim, about the Tzaraas could come on a house, even if the house is owned by partners, not by one person. Pshita, that's obvious. Ma'odetema uva asher lo habayit. Because the pasuk says, he who owns the house will come to the Kohen and say, I've seen something on the wall. Lo v'lo la, lo v'lo lahen. So it sounds like it's one man owns this house and not a woman and not partners. Kamash Milan, that even if the house is owned by women or by partners, it could be Tamei Tzaraas and have Negayim. Emahachanami, so why not? Why not limit it only to a house owned by one man? Amakra beveit eretz achuzatchem. Because the Torah says about the house getting Tzaraat, it's only in Eretz Yisrael, and it calls it Eretz Achuzatchem, and that's plural. Achuzatchem includes women, includes partners, includes everyone. Ele lo, so why does the Torah say lo? Lamali. This is amazing, Rabbi Say. Misha miyached beito lo. Someone who keeps his house closed off to himself. Okay, what's the big deal? What this means is she'ena rotze lahashil kelav. He doesn't want to lend out any of his household utensils. If the neighbor knocks on the door, he won't give them an egg. He won't give them a frying pan. He won't give them anything. Omer she'en lo, he says, I don't have that. I can't lend you that. I don't have any of those. But he's not telling the truth. What happens? HaKadosh Baruch Hu mefarsamo. Hashem will publicize it. Because when he takes the kelim out of the house, remember what happens? He goes to the Kohen and says, I think I saw a Tzaraas. Kohen says, oh, really? I'm going to come look at it. But before I come look at it, take everything out of the house, because if that's really Tzaraas, everything's Tameh. So now what does he have to do? This man who wouldn't lend out his kelim, he has to take everything outside. And now the neighbors see it's exposed his unwillingness to share. So this is miyached lo. He's trying to keep to himself, and Hashem will make it come about that he has to show everybody that he was untruthful. Prat l'mashal kela, but a person who lends out his kelim, he gets along with the neighbors, they all share. Kela v'lecherim ubeit knesset mi matami v'negayim. So prat l'mashal kelav lecherim. So someone who lends out his kelim, who shares with other people, participates with other people, he's not going to get a negayim because he doesn't have that attitude, and that's the same attitude that could be involved in lashon hara, which is credited as the main source of Negayim. There's 10 different potential causes, but Lashon Hara, we learned on Shabbos, was sort of the main thing to blame. Beit Knesset mi matami Negayim, and they ask, can a Beit Knesset get Negayim, Gitzarat, Hatanya, but the Raisa says, Yachol Yulu Batei Knesset, Batei Mersha, Mitamim Negayim. You might have thought a base medrash, a beit Knesset could get Negayim, Talmud Lomar, Uvasher Lo Habayit, but the man who owns the house comes, Misha Miyuchad Lo. So that's a house owned by a person. Yatsu Elu, not a beit Knesset base medrash. Shein Miyuchadim Lo. They're not for one person, they're for everybody. Lo kasha, habri meir harabanan. One's meir, one's rabbanan. Titania, beit knesset sheyesh ba beit dira. Beit knesset that has living quarters inside. Lechazan, for the shamesh, the gabbai. Chazan knesset, chayiv b'mezuzah. She'ein ba beit dira. Rabbi Meir mechayev. Rabbi Meir still says it's chayiv. Chachamim potrim. The Chachamim say it's potter. So really, minadin should be potter. The ibayis ema. Or you could say hava harabanan. They're both the rabbis. Lo kasha. Ha de isba beit dira. One is a base medrash or base knesset that has a residence inside. Ha de leisba base dira. The other one does not have residence inside. Iba is ema. Ha de leisba base dira. Both of these do not have a residence in the base medrash, base knesset. Turning to the top of yod base. Ha de krochim. Ha de kfarim. And one is in the cities and one is in the villages. So hold on. So Rashi says krochim shu makam shvakim. The krochim has the markets. Mitkabsot sham, people gather there. Mimakamot harbe, from a lot of different places. Hiasuya lekol haba, so everyone can come. Lihit palel. Ve'ein labali miyuchadim. There's no single owners. We remember this by Megillah Nikret when and Purim. The very beginning of Megillah, we say that in the cities, people come from the villages and hear the Megillah, and they come for business and they'd hear the Megillah in the city. But the Kfarim, Rashi says, Kol ba'alav nikarim. You know everyone in the village. This is a small village with one shtibel. Everyone knows who's there. They all donate to the building fund. So it's like they're partners in the small shul. So we see that a shul could be, two kinds of shuls. There's an insular shul where everyone's like, this is my shul, man, keep out of my chair. And there's a shul where, like, come on in, welcome. Here's a siddur, welcome. So two approaches. So that depends. I'll let Rav take it, but listen, I have time. Baruch Hashem, we've got a few minutes left. So the inyan of Mezuzah is famous for made famous for one man, and that's Onkelos the Ger. And there is a Gemara. We're going to pull out the Gemara. And Onkelos the Ger is very famous. It's in Avodah Zarah 11. And it's Onkelos bar Clonimus converted to Judaism. And what happened? The Medrash tells us he was the nephew of Hadrian. Anyone know what Hadrian's famous for? There's something named after Hadrian. Anyone know? It's a big wall. It's a big wall. So they named the big wall after Hadrian. Okay, so that's beautiful. So Onkelos was his nephew, the son of his sister. And the Medrash tells us he learned all the wisdom. He learned all the Greek wisdom, the wisdom in Rome. He was a Roman. He was not Jewish. He learned all this wisdom, and he got a little bored, and he goes, Uncle, I'm going to go out into the world. I've learned everything. I've learned Greek. I've learned the antiquities. What should I do, for business, for parnasa? And Hadrian, the emperor, says, find something that's cheap, that people don't value very much, but it could appreciate in value. And, buy low, sell high. It's good advice. Find something people don't value very much, supply and demand, and you hold on to it. When people realize the value, you're going to be rich. So beautiful. So Onkelos goes out in the world, ends up in Eretz Yisrael, and you understand, he's a man who loves wisdom. He starts learning Torah. Not only starts learning Torah, he becomes a Jew, becomes a sage, sees that a lot of the people in Eretz Yisrael, their Hebrew wasn't so good, their Ivrit wasn't so good, they're speaking Aramaic. So he writes the Targum Onkelos. Of course, based on with his Rebbeim also, he learned by Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus. He's a gadol. So he wrote the Targum Onkelos that we still use today for Shnai Mikra Echad Targum. We still use it to this day. And then what happens is, I'll just say it outside, is that Hadrian says, a famous Roman, my nephew, who's a famous Roman nobleman, has converted to Judaism. It's going to lead other Romans to convert. He sends soldiers to go and bring him back. And he starts talking to them and learning, and they, wow, this is amazing. And the Roman soldiers also convert. So then Hadrian sends another group, and he says, don't talk Torah with this guy. He's one of these Mishugayim. He's one of these, don't. So he says to the next group of Roman soldiers, who holds the torch for the emperor? Well, the general. Who holds the torch for the general? The lieutenant. Who holds for the lieutenant? The sergeant. Who holds for the sergeant? The private. They're army men. They understand all the ranks. He says, you know what? Hashem held the torch for the Jewish people. There was an Amud Eish. Hashem lit the way for the Jewish people in the Midbar, and Hashem lights our lives. Wow. Second group of Romans converts. Third group of Romans, the emperor says, don't even talk to him. Don't do anything. Just take him back to Rome. We're going to get this guy out of yeshiva. He's leaving the room, and what does he do, Rabbi Sai? Yeah, he touches the mezuzah. My high. They say, what are you doing that? What's touching this for? He says, listen, by Rome, the guards are on the outside. The walls and the guards protect the emperor. But for the Jews, our emperor, our God, he protects us. We write the Shin and the Dalet and the Yud, Shomer Delatot Yisrael, that it's a Shmira also. Now the Rambam says, Mezuzah is not an amulet, it's not a segula, it's not a Shmira, but the mitzvah of Mezuzah does protect us. And the Romans, the soldiers, wow, they're very impressed. And they convert too. And at the end, Hadrian gives up. They eventually meet again. Hadrian and Onkelos meet again. Hadrian says, why did you become Jewish? Why'd you go to yeshiva? What's all this Jewish stuff? He says, Emperor, my uncle, I took your advice. You said find something people don't value that will appreciate and value. I found the wisdom of the Torah. And right now, people don't value it so much. Most of the world is not Jewish. But in the future, this will be a nation of princes, a nation of Kohanim, of teachers, and the entire world will want to come and learn our wisdom. It will be the most valuable thing in the world. So when Mashiach comes, everyone's going to want to learn the Targum Onkelos, and Onkelos is going to be like, he's going to be like Mamish having a great day. Everyone's going to want to learn Peshat and the Chumash. Every person in the world will want Peshat and Chumash with the Targum Onkelos. Thank you, Rabotai. Shkoyach.